I love when they talked about Star Wars because it's like they're talking about Lucas looking at this like in a different lens than most people. He's like, we're gonna use stereo, we're gonna do widescreen.
Hmm.
It's gonna fucking look amazing. It's gonna sound amazing, and also I want all the rights to merchandising. And all the studio's like, fucking, all right, you can have merchandise. We don't give a fuck about merchandise. And like he knew that it's like, dude, if I can sell this like and market this as like a merchandise thing, like Disney, like he's gonna make all his money back just on that. And he
Yeah.
has, dude. Like it's
And when
huge.
they showed the first screening of Star Wars, when they first showed it, and Brian De Palma was like, "What the fuck is this? Like,
He
this
was
is
tearing
fucking."
in there, dude.
Yeah, he's like, "This fucking sucks. Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is this?" And like, everyone thought it was trash, and fucking Steven Spielberg's like, "This is really good, George. This is a really good movie."
Yeah, he's like, this is good, George. This is really good, George. He's like, yeah, so it's not gonna be as good as Close Encounters. He's like, trust me, this time you made the hit or some
Yeah.
shit like that.
Yeah, and he did. And I think he like when there was like some effects work that had to be done, and then they did the effects, and
Yeah,
then
and
like,
then fucking blew up.
yeah,
He didn't pay his effects artists.
yeah,
Like,
and then but like yeah, when it blew up when it opened in
Yeah.
1977,
yeah,
another movie was opening that time too.
same. I think it opened like the week after or like the same
The
week.
same week, I think maybe the same week or same weekend, and a lot of people didn't see this movie because of Star Wars,
Yeah,
but that movie was Sorcerer
yeah.
from 1977. Well, written by what's the guy's name who wrote the book? I don't know who wrote the script, but it's based on Wages of Fear from 1955,
Mm-hmm.
and it's directed by William Friedkin, the late William Friedkin, R.I.P. I watched his movies. I was a big fan of him before he died,
Yeah.
But there's some people who are kind of like dick riding him now,
Yeah,
like, and then it's like kind of obvious,
yeah,
like just like Josh,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. But I mean,
We,
I
we,
think
we gave him a tribute, like we
yeah,
talked about
yeah.
it.
It's hard to distinguish between tribute and dick riding, but in this case, we know a person who's dick riding,
Yeah,
But like,
dude.
whatever,
It's funny.
It
It's like
is funny, but
yeah.
it's like it's you should be watching Freakin'. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he's dope. He's dope as fuck. I mean, we already did a tribute to him, but he was making good movies like even later on, bro. Like Killer Joe is really good.
Dude, he's such like a.
2011.
Every time I watch his movie, he has a certain like language to it too, where it's like
Yeah,
it's always like no matter what the subject is, it's just like a little more mature than like
mm,
what you expect, and like I don't know, just the way he like portrays, just it feels so real, Like
yeah,
it feels like very like boots on the ground. This is someone that came from like a real hard upbringing, like a real life.
yeah. He's a Chicago guy,
Yeah.
Like he's not. He's like Michael Mann, bro.
Yeah.
Like they're like similar in that regard. And Tangerine Dream does the soundtrack for
Yeah.
Sorcerer, and Tangerine Dream also did the soundtrack
Beef.
for Thief, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting like connection. But
Sorcerer is like yeah.
Sorcerer might be my favorite William Friedkin movie, bro. And then
It
probably
might.
and then French Connection,
Yeah.
and like this movie so fucking good, bro. But I will say the part like from when they start the mission to the end of the movie is fucking a phenomenal
Yeah.
piece of like fucking film. It's
Yeah.
so fucking like that's like really where the movie that's like why that movie is so fucking like reappraised and
Yeah.
regarded, But I think the reason why it got bad because it like flopped and got bad reviews, and I think it's because the intro is kind of weird. It's like a little like the pacing is weird because you start out with like this action scene and you're following this guy who's like this terrorist, and you cut away to some French bureaucratic guy,
Yeah.
and the thing is when you see that and even though it's a totally different timeline, different story, but when you cut across like that, it feels like those two things are already connected.
Yeah.
And it felt like I thought that French guy was like trying to find the terrorist, but
Yeah.
it was literally like just like two separate things, and it's
Yeah.
not like laid out that well, and like I didn't
Yeah.
get that, and then but it's literally just two different stories about two guys who need to like get away, and then you also are introduced to Roy Scheider,
Yeah,
You
there's a
know,
he's like the last character you're introduced
yeah,
to.
yeah, you're kind of introduced to the team,
Hmm.
but and they do it in kind of a weird way. And you have like this big action scene in the beginning, and then you have them being set. They're trying to seek like passage out of the country because they're going to go to prison, and that they have like some special connection where this guy can ship them down to South America to some, I don't know what country it's supposed to be, but
Yeah, I'm not sure
it's
either.
unknown. I think it's unnamed country, but they go there. They want to like get out of it because it sucks down there. Like they're like living like in poverty basically, and they have to do
Yeah,
all this like work and shit. And you can set it up more if you want. I don't want
yeah. I mean, it is kind of jarring the way that they cut between the intros, because you can't really tell what you're watching. You're
to.
like,
Yeah.
who's the main character here? Because there's so many characters
Oh
involved.
yeah, I know what my point was. Can I just finish up my point? I have to go through like that intro. So basically, they're in this sort of like South American Nicaraguan place where they're hired to do like really like gritty like handiwork,
I think they
for
work on
oil,
like some
like an
some
oil
of them work
rig.
on oil
Yeah,
rigs and shit like
and they're
that.
definitely out of their like they're definitely like their skill set is like way better than that. You know what I mean? And they're just kind of working these like fucking really rough jobs. But then basically one of the oil pipelines that the company owns gets like blown up by some like militia, guerrilla, rebel force.
Hmm.
And it's like across the forest. These three guys get hired because they're really good drivers to basically take this very sensitive dynamite that's turning into nitroglycerin that's like very like active and like it'll like if you drop like
If you
piece
drop it,
it'll like it explode without
yeah,
even like a fire. So
yeah.
basically the mission is they have to drive these two trucks like across like this area of forestry and blow up the thing. And this is my final wraparound is before all of that happens, before we get to the actual mission, it's like a little bit of a like kind of like it's hard to like follow like what's going on. It's not as intriguing
Yeah.
as the actual mission, and I think that's what slowed it down. I think that slows it down, and I think that's kind of why it got like a bad reception. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because the rest of it is just phenomenal. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it is. It definitely kind of has a slow start to it. And even when you're introduced to the characters, then you have to be introduced to like how they're set up in this like exile town. You know, how they're
yeah,
all like fit into this little town and like they're all like, I want to get out because I want to go to Argentina, or like
yeah.
I want you to send this letter to my wife or something. Like there's more character building that happens even after that, and that like slows the pace down. But then once it's like, okay, this oil rig's like been attacked, it's spewing oil, and because it's lit, it won't be like unlit. It will
Mm-hmm.
just deplete all the oil that's in that reserve
Mm-hmm.
unless someone like blows it up and like turns the rig off essentially. But they can't do that because it's just like, whatever. So they need to get the explosives across the jungle. I like how it's like all of these guys kind of like have this skill set of like a good driver, and they do like the truck driving test, and then at the very like last minute it's like, well, you have this montage where they're fixing up their trucks, and that's where the name Sorcerer comes from. Is they write on one of the trucks it's Sorcerer. Right before they're about to leave, one of the guys, there's a fourth guy who's also from Israel with another one of the characters who's they're Palestinians. They had like blown up. They were like the Palestinian terrorists at the beginning,
Yeah, yeah,
and this old guy like gets killed by this hitman
yeah. Uh huh.
from Mexico that we see at the very first frame of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like I totally forgot about him. Like I
Yeah,
didn't even
yeah, yeah.
connect
There's
that
that
until
hit. Yeah,
after.
yeah, and it's like there's like three real standout things that happen in this movie that I was like, holy fuck, this is crazy. Like one of them is the really famous like bridge,
Oh
the
my
bridge
god!
scene in the rain, the fucking Tarzan
Yeah,
bridge, bro. Like I would never fucking do that shit,
yeah.
bro. That shit is like so. It looks like it's just
No,
and
I'd be like, we gotta turn around.
no, dude, and it's just like that was insane. The bridge crossing, they have to do it with both trucks too, dude. Which is like even adds more. Like you get the first part and you're like, oh fuck, that was like insane, and then you get the second one,
And
and
they're
it's just
building
like
up he builds up the tension so well in
yeah,
the
yeah.
editing. It's just like,
And there's just like so many things that happen. Like he falls under, and the
yeah.
guy, and like the fucking tree comes in,
Yeah,
and
and then
like
like the ropes breaking
yeah,
and shit. And
yeah.
it just like cuts.
Yeah.
Just like such a jarring cut, and you're like, did they die? Did they not?
Yeah. And then the second fucking shit is when they fucking do the sandbag mechanism shit with the when they blow the dynamite so they can clear that part of the
Yeah,
area of the
dude, that was
forest.
sick. Yeah.
That was fucking cool. And then the part, dude, like spoiler alert,
Uh-huh.
spoiler alert, the part where they're like just having the chit chat in the car, and then he fucking just does one wrong
Yeah.
turn and he fucking like blows up the thing.
Yeah.
Dude, that part was like, holy shit! Like all that work went to nothing, dude.
Yeah.
Just 1 second, one like split second of not paying attention, like fucked up, like
I know.
killed them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that was just such an interesting part too, dude, because you got to know these like two characters,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're just like boom, because you knew someone was gonna die. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And but the way they did it was like just came out of like it was so unpredictable,
And it was so
and
good
it was
too.
so dreamlike too. It was kind of like, what did that actually like happen?
Yeah.
You know? But
Yeah.
it's like
He's
they
like,
fucking they're dead.
He's like, it's 9:10 in France right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, my wife is just like having her coffee, and then that's just like right. Like that was so.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming at all, man.
Yeah. He's kind of brutal with it, William Friedkin. Like he's not afraid to shy away from like unresolved things. Like it's not gonna give you a happy ending. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, and I really like that about him because even at the end, like you don't even know if that letter's sent off ever or anything like that. You know? You don't know if,
Because the
like,
guy comes in there.
yeah, did it ever amount
That's a really
to
like
anything?
Friedkin.
Like,
Friedkin has like such weird endings.
yeah,
Like it's always like a negative. It's always like, oh no, he's gonna die. Or something
Yeah.
like that. Or like, oh no, he's a kill. Yeah.
and it's like, oh fuck, he's arrested because he killed his fucking captain or some shit. Like. Yeah, there's so much about this movie I want to talk about, but in the book they talk about the making of this, and
Yeah, you can talk about that. Yeah.
William Friedkin, like at this point, had like kind of let the power of directing go to his head.
Yeah, and
you
he
know?
was super hot. I thought he was one of the hottest. He was probably top 3 hottest directors at
Yeah.
that point with Spielberg and Coppola.
It was
him.
it was him, Coppola, and Bogdanovich, dude. Were like
Yeah.
hot shit. They were like the guys that like paved the way for New Hollywood. And then Bogdanovich Friedkin falls off for this movie, and I think they shot this in Costa Rica or some shit like that, and it sounded like hell. It didn't sound as bad as Apocalypse Now, but like
Yeah.
he freaking made this hell. He would fire people on the spot. He would fire people they worked with for like 11 years.
And they would come back though, something like that, right?
That like no, he would just like fire them, dude.
Mm.
Like it got to a point where Roy Scheider said like Billy, you gotta stop firing people because I'm tired of going to the airport every day and saying goodbye to my friends.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it just sounds like crazy. He sounded like he put so much pressure and he went way over budget on it too. And
Yeah, the whole thing with like also part of why it flopped too is because like they didn't really have any big stars.
yeah, they didn't have any big stars.
Even though like Roy Scheider's like a legend, but he's just kind of like a legend like now. Back
Yeah.
then he was kind of just like an actor. Obviously he was in Jaws, but
Yeah, but he was kind of like the everyday guy. He wasn't like a star. Friedkin's like notorious for doing that, like not casting like big stars, casting normal looking people.
Yeah, but Steve McQueen was originally offered the role,
Yeah.
but then he couldn't go because his freaking didn't want his wife to be there and shit.
Well, Steve McQueen was like, if I go away for 6 months, she's gonna leave me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
Ally
so
McGraw.
funny. Yeah, it's so funny. Ally McGraw, dude.
They got divorced anyway, dude.
Yeah, I love the last thing I want to say about Sorcerer is I love the ending. It's a little bit like Thief too, like where it's like you have to give up everything to make it to the end,
Mhm.
and he just like gives up like he's just literally carrying the like explosives at the end, like walking, stumbling there, walked like 11 miles or whatever that was like left, and just like got there and shit, and that was crazy to me.
Yeah.
It was like that got so dreamlike and surreal, and then just like that last shot with the like the fire going up at night, like
Yeah.
sick.
But the last shot is showing the assassin go into the hut.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah,
but
whatever that means. But
that's just like a William Friedkin type shit. But yeah, this movie is really fucking amazing.
yeah.
Like I said, the mission is so fucking good. All of that shit is like really what makes it stand out.
Yeah. Best freaking movie I've seen, I think.
It might be the best. Yeah, I think it's the best one, man.
So It's a shame. I
There's a
mean,
great interview with Nicholas Winding Refn and William Friedkin when they talk about Sorcerer. It's really good. You should guys should check it out.
yeah.
But watch the movie if you can. It's not streaming anywhere, but you just can rent it, I guess.